Okay, Philip, since your camera's already on, you can say one of these or multiple.
Hi. The six sheep's sick. Shy Shelley says she shall sew sheets. 3 free throws. Sam's shop stocks short spotted socks. Knapsack straps. A noisy noise, a noise, an oyster.
Yeah,
Or
so
does it?
that's good. Keep in mind you guys don't have to speak like super fast if that messes you up. This is just to get you enunciating more. Crystal, do you want to go next?
So do I just choose one?
Sorry, say that again. I can't hear you.
Do I just choose one?
Yeah.
3 free throws.
Okay, that's good. Um, who's Dana? Do you want to go?
All right. Which wristwatches are Swiss wristwatches?
That was
Tim,
really
the
good.
thin twin Smith. She sifted thistles through her thistle sifter. What time does the wristwatch strap shop shut? Which witch wished which wicked wish? 6 slippery snails slid slowly seaward.
Yeah, that was really good. Kaden.
Shy Shelley says she shall sew sheets.
Okay. Alvin.
Is this your sister's sixth zither, sir? Shy Shelley says she shall sew sheets. Knapsack strap.
Okay. And lastly, oh wait, no, I think she left. Okay. Everyone was pretty good, meaning you guys got the enunciation part of speech down. So next, we're gonna do the talking without stumbling thing. So I'm gonna give you guys about like 5 minutes of prep time to like either write like a pre-written speech or just some like talking points. You guys can talk about anything you want, and the goal here is just talk without saying like or like any sort of stumbling. And we'll see who can do that for the longest. So let me put on the timer. And your time starts now.
Okay. Aunt Helga gives advice. This is a true story that I written. Okay. So, what is my favorite type of frozen dessert? My favorite type of frozen dessert is and will always be ice cream. Now, you may ask me, why don't you prefer sorbet or frozen yogurt?
Stop. That was
What?
15 seconds, I believe.
Whoops.
Yeah, so it's a lot harder than you would imagine. That was 2. So Crystal, if you'd like to go next. You don't have to have anything written. You can just have like a general idea of what you're going to say. Here's a tip though, like if you instead of saying or like just don't talk, just like have those spaces in between your words because that's technically better than stumbling. But Crystal, you can just like say it. You don't have to have something totally pre-written. I'd prefer if you weren't just reading it though, because in debate you don't want to just be reading off your notes. You want to actually be speaking as like a speech. We can do someone else before you, so you have a little more time to prepare though. Next, Dana, are you ready?
Yes, I am ready.
Okay, I'll start whenever you're ready.
All right. The sky stretches on forever and ever. Sometimes the clouds are listless, drifting through the sky with no apparent purpose. Sometimes they're angry, thundering across hundreds of miles, bringing their wrath with them wherever they go. Sometimes they are calm, serene even. A lovely sunset, the final rays of light permeating through the blanket of golden clouds. As the sky changes to a midnight indigo, the clouds drift away, revealing the trillions of twinkling stars hanging above our planet. The moon shines, a lovely waning crescent tonight. Glowing a soft silver, it illuminates the blankets of grass on one side of the earth and reflects across millions of sparkling skyscrapers on the other. The sky changes again, this time bringing dawn. A fresh breeze floats through the air. The birds awake. They soar through the air, and I didn't finish writing the whole thing.
Okay, yeah, that was good. That was like 51 seconds. You only stumbled once, so you could have kept on going and just like made stuff up as you were going, which is definitely hard. But you could have done that. I have a Google Doc with your names. Let me put down the seconds. Okay. Who wants to go next? Kaden, are you ready? Yeah, Philip, I agree. That was really good if you wrote that. Oh wait, Alvin, you can go.
Okay, tooth hygiene. So back when toothbrushes didn't exist, people rinsed their teeth with mud. That's also what pigs do. Even though most people would think that mud is all dirty, it actually can have some effects on cleaning yourself. Oh yeah, right.
No, that was only one. You could keep on going.
Oh, okay.
But well, now it's too late, but you could have kept on going. I would say that was like what, 25 seconds? That was only one. I think someone else joined too, so let me add their name. Maddie. Okay, so either Maddie or Crystal or Kaden, any of you guys can go. Crystal, are you ready now?
No.
Okay, Kaden, can you go?
Sure.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Kaden. I am 13 years old and I like to play sports. I am currently on a basketball and soccer team. I also play video games. My two favorite video games are Minecraft and Valorant. I recently went on a trip to Pismo Beach in California. My favorite part of the trip was playing on the beach and trying gelato for the first time. When I grow up, I want to be an inventor or engineer because I like being creative and inventing things. My first day of school starts on Wednesday and I am not very excited because I heard the teachers for 8th grade are pretty strict. The only thing I like about school is that I get to see my friends and make new ones. That's all I wrote for now.
You could have kept going again and made stuff up, but that was really good. You didn't stumble once, and oh my god, I forgot to pause it again. But did anyone see what time he ended at? Okay, let's just say that was 44 seconds. All right. Okay, Maddie, can you go next?
Okay, so every school should do what Finland schools did. They made school 4 hours long and they banned all homework. So this allows students to focus more on their mental health and be happier instead of doing hours of homework every day and having to study for tests and everything. It so
Okay, yeah, that was it. But you started off really well. That was an interesting topic too. 21 seconds. Okay, lastly, Crystal. Yeah, is stumbling. Well, it depends if you're using it actually in a sentence, that's obviously different. But if it's just a filler word. Yeah, exactly, Dana. Sometimes you use it for emphasis, but sometimes it's just a filler, and it depends. Yeah, a lot of people say it a lot. Okay, that's fine. Just do whatever you have. Oh, Crystal, you can go.
Can you hear me? Can you
Yep.
hear me?
Yeah.
Or should I connect headphones because this is kind of bad.
Okay. Whenever you're ready.
Can you hear me better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can't really hear anything.
Okay. You can start whenever you're ready.
I can't really hear anything, so.
Oh, can you hear us now?
Ghosts of Roanoke. The pirate fleet appeared suddenly, emerging from the thick fog bank that blanketed the small stretch of coastline. Only half an hour earlier, the weather had been clear enough to see the trees on the island across the sound. Now, from the vantage point of a long high pier, the people on the beach were wraiths shrouded in mist, and the pirate ships were hulking shadows bearing down on them without warning. At the end of the pier, where it thrust out over the water, stood a tall boy with short red hair fringed by a few unruly curls, and a girl with straight black hair falling just to her shoulders. The two teenagers wore robes like everyone else on the beach and the pier, but theirs were plain and loose, thrown over the clothes they wore underneath. The boy's robes flapped open as he waved his arms at the pirate ships, revealing blue jeans and a striped shirt. Awesome, he said as people began screaming. The pirate ships did not run aground. Instead, the phantasmal vessels plowed unimpeded right through the sand and directly over the people at the beach. Some of the spectators scattered in alarm, but most just stood there looking transfixed. The teenagers found themselves looking right down the barrels of a row of cannons as one of the ships drifted past the pier. Pirates leered and waved swords and pistols, and then the cannons fired. The pea soup fog swallowed the booms and billowing smoke, so the teenagers didn't realize they had been fired upon until a ghostly gray shape came hurtling directly at them. Holy crap, said the boy, and he grabbed the girl, much to her consternation, and threw her and himself both to the wooden deck at their feet. A high-pitched shriek pierced the fog from a little way down the pier. The girl pushed her companion roughly off of her and leaped to her feet. Julia, are you all right? Eek. Another girl, slightly older than the other two teenagers, was dancing about in the fog, her summer yellow robes flapping around her as she hopped and shivered. Eek, eek, eek. Alexandra Quick ran to her sister, who was shuddering and wrapping her arms around herself. A cannonball right through me. It was cold and creepy, like someone walking on my grave. With one more dramatic shudder, Julia King dropped her arms and tossed her curly brown hair. And, she added, I didn't have anyone gallant enough to save me. Coming up behind Alexandra, Peyton Smith blushed. Sorry, you were too far away. Nobody needed saving. Alexandra straightened her robes. You know they're just ghosts. They can't hurt anyone. The pirate ships had come to a halt far up on the beach, sitting in the sand at the edge of the wizarding town of New Roanoke. Can I just stop now?
I guess if you want. That was definitely the longest, I think. Let's maybe check. Yeah, that was 2 minutes and 36 seconds. So yeah, that was really good. Next time though, try to come up with something. For now it was okay. We might do this again if we have time though. So for the next time, try to do that. Now we're going to get into like the lesson that we were supposed to do. So we're gonna learn about logical fallacies today. So okay. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, thanks. So this website says logical fallacies are flawed, deceptive, or false arguments that can be proven wrong with reasoning. And then these are the most common logical fallacies you should know about. Arguments and debates are an important part of college and academic discourse, but not every argument is perfect. Some can be picked apart because they have errors in reasoning and rhetoric, and these are called logical fallacies because they're very common. You'll hear logical fallacies in the classroom, during televised debates, and in arguments with your friends. It can be even challenging to avoid using them yourself. So what is a logical fallacy? They're flawed, deceptive, or false arguments that can be proven wrong with reasoning. And there's two main types of fallacies. There's formal fallacies, which is an argument with a premise and a conclusion that doesn't hold up to scrutiny, and an informal fallacy, which is an error in the form, content, or context of the argument. So a more simplified definition, I guess, of that I found from the National Library of Medicine, which they state formal and informal fallacies refer to errors in reasoning or logic, which result from invalid arguments. Formal fallacies refer to arguments that have an invalid structure or form, while informal fallacies refer to arguments that have incorrect or irrelevant premises. So in simple words, informal fallacies are basically flaws in the argument itself and like what the argument's talking about. Itself, while formal fallacies are something wrong with the argument. Like the argument is still valid, but the way they're arguing it is not. So here are some of, there's 15 on this website. Here are the most common ones. Okay. So ad hominem uses personal attacks rather than logic. This fallacy occurs when someone rejects or criticizes another point of view based on the personal characteristics, ethnic background, physical appearance, or other non-relevant traits of the person who holds it. Ad hominem arguments are often used in politics where they're called mudslinging. They are considered unethical because politicians can use them to manipulate voters' opinions against an opponent without addressing core issues. So basically ad hominem is you insulting the person rather than actually arguing about a topic. And you obviously don't want to do that in debate because first of all, it's not really helping the argument. And second of all, like you want to stay professional and have good sportsmanship. So see if you can tell which one of these is ad hominem and which one is just an insult. So which one is ad hominem argument? Anyone? Okay.
This one?
Well, say that again, sorry.
The first one?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I didn't see the chat. So example 2 is just an insult, but example 1 has quote unquote reasoning, but it's really just ad hominem in disguise. Okay, Strongman argument attacks a different subject rather than the topic being discussed, often a more extreme version of the counter argument. The purpose of this misdirection is to make one's position look stronger than it actually is. The strawman argument is appropriately named after a harmless, lifeless scarecrow. Instead of contending with the actual argument, they attack the equivalent of a lifeless bundle of straw, and easily defeat a puppet that the opponent was never arguing for in the first place. So this is basically a combination of going off topic and making your opponent's argument sound more extreme than it actually is. So see if you can detect which or how both of the following statements could be strawman arguments. Yeah, I'll post everything on Google Classroom after the class, but if you want it now, I can put the link in the chat. Okay. So example 1, the senator thinks we can solve all our ecological problems by driving a Prius. This could be the strawman argument because it's extremifying the senator's opinion, I guess, by saying like they think that driving a Prius is going to like fix climate change or whatever they're talking about. In reality, they probably said something a lot less extreme. And again, this is not really helping your argument or bringing down the other person's argument. All right, next. Appeal to ignorance, also known as argument from ignorance, argues that a proposition must be true because it has not been proven false or there is no evidence against it. The argument can be used to bolster multiple contradictory conclusions at once, such as the following two claims. No one has ever been able to prove that extraterrestrials exist, so they must not be real. No one has ever been able to prove that extraterrestrials do not exist, so they must be real. Appeal to ignorance doesn't really prove anything. Instead, it shifts the need for proof away from the person making a claim. So it's basically, usually when you're making an argument, you obviously need evidence, but appeal to ignorance is basically saying that if there is no evidence for something, then it must be true or it must not be true, which obviously you need evidence, not the lack thereof, to support an argument. So this is considered a logical fallacy. So which one of these is an example of appeal to ignorance? You can type in the chat or unmute yourself, it doesn't matter. Yeah, so number one would be the appeal to ignorance, because it's saying, it's backing up an argument by saying that there's no evidence for something else. But number two isn't really making like an argument and using the lack of evidence as proof. Okay, false dilemma or false dichotomy. Alvin, that is an interesting point, and that's a good debate topic, so keep that in mind. So the false dilemma or false dichotomy presents limited options, typically by focusing on two extremes, when in fact more possibilities exist. The phrase America, love it or leave it, is an example of a false dilemma. False dilemma fallacy is a manipulative tool designed to polarize the audience, promoting one side and demonizing the other. It's common in political discourse as a way of strong-arming the public into supporting controversial legislation or policies. All right. So basically, this is just a fallacy that makes everything like really black and white, and obviously they're gonna make the other side's extreme sound a lot worse than your side's extreme. But in reality, obviously in life, nothing's really black and white. There's a lot of gray areas, and because of that being true, this is considered a fallacy. So in these examples, either we go to war or we appear weak. So these are two extremes, obviously. Third option, like this prompt saying, could be like you figure out a treaty or something. It's not all black and white again. Okay, slippery slope argument assumes that a certain course of action will necessarily lead to a chain of future events. The slippery slope fallacy takes a benign premise or starting point and suggests that it will lead to unlikely or ridiculous outcomes with no supporting evidence. You may have used this fallacy on your parents as a teenager, but you have to let me go to the party. If I don't go to the party, I'll be a loser with no friends. Next thing you know, I'll end up alone, jobless, living in your basement when I'm 30. So the slippery slope argument is like the example said, and like the website said, you assuming that because of one thing, all these things are going to happen, but that's not necessarily true. But of course, there is an exception if you have like evidence with clear like cause and effects. That's another different thing. But the slippery slope fallacy is you like going on a whole chain of events that isn't like always can't be proven to be true. Sorry, I didn't get to the example yet. So which one is a slippery slope? They said 2. Yeah, so example 1 is clear cause and effect and is reasonable, but example 2 is like a huge jump from one event to another event and has no evidence or reasoning between the two. So yeah, circular argument. They occur when a person's argument repeats what they've already assumed before, without arriving at a new conclusion. For example, if someone says, according to my brain is reliable, that's a circular argument. Circular arguments often use a claim as a both premise and conclusion. This fallacy only appears to be an argument when it's when in fact it's just restating one's assumptions. So obviously, if you have an argument, you need evidence and then reasoning, which we'll get into later if we have time. But a circular argument is basically using your argument and evidence as the same thing. And then sometimes also your reasoning is the same too, which you obviously can't have because they're not the same. Someone in the chat, what'd they say? Number one. Yeah, so number one is using the law both as their claim and as their reasoning / evidence. So it's a circular argument. Hasty generalization is a claim based on a few examples rather than substantial proof. Arguments based on hasty generalizations often don't hold up due to lack of supporting evidence. The claim may be true in one case, but that doesn't mean it's always true. Hasty generalizations are common in arguments because there's a wide range of what's acceptable for sufficient evidence. The rules for evidence can change based on the claim you're making and the environment where you're making it, whether it's rooted in philosophy, the sciences, or a political debate, or discussing house rules for using the kitchen. So this is, like the name suggests, a false generalization for all people, which is not true. So which one is a hasty generalization? Some people vote without seriously weighing the merits of the candidate. And example 2, poor people nowadays only vote with their emotions instead of their brains. So which one is a hasty generalization? Yeah, so 2, because example 1 is saying some people. So yeah, that's true because some is subjective. It could be, it's not assuming everyone is doing something. And example 2 is saying people nowadays, so that that's insinuating that the person means everybody nowadays votes with their emotions. Okay, next. Red herring is an argument that uses confusion or distraction to shift attention away from a topic and towards a false conclusion. Red herrings usually contain an unimportant fact, idea, or event that has little relevance to the real issue. Red herrings are a common diversionary tactic when someone wants to shift the focus of an argument to something easier or safer to address. But red herrings also can be unintentional. So it's basically going off topic, but on purpose. So which one of these is red herring fallacy? Yeah, so 1, because in example 2, the patio furniture does have to do with the garage because it is in the garage, so it's not technically going off topic. It's just going more specific onto the topic. Well, example 1, the roommate is doing something that's completely different from the original argument or the original topic. Okay, appeal to hypocrisy is also known as tu quoque fallacy. Focuses on the hypocrisy of an opponent. It deflects criticism away from oneself by accusing the other person of the same problem or something comparable. Sorry, I just lost my place. Is an attempt to divert blame. Fallacy usually occurs when the arguer uses apparent hypocrisy to neutralize criticism and distract from the issue. So instead of actually addressing the issue, it's saying, oh, well, you're a hypocrite because you've done this, while you're saying the opposite, which is used a lot. Which of the following is an appeal to hypocrisy? Yeah, so number 1, but Dad, I know you smoked when you were my age, so how can you tell me not to do it? It's the kid pointing out the dad's hypocrisy rather than actually addressing the issue. And in example 2, it says, son, yes, I smoked when I was your age. It was dumb then and it's dumb now. That's why I forbid you to smoke, chew, vape, use nicotine, gum, or do whatever you kids do with tobacco these days. So this one is more so like explaining and actually addressing the issue rather than pointing fingers. Causal fallacy. Causal fallacies are informal fallacies that occur when an argument incorrectly concludes that a cause is related to an effect. Think of the causal fallacy as a parent category for other fallacies about unproven causes. One example is the false cause fallacy, which is when you draw a conclusion about what the cause was without enough evidence to do so. Another is the post hoc fallacy, which is when you mistake something for the cause before it came first, not because it actually caused the effect. So, you have to remember, like, obviously, correlation does not mean causation. So, the false cause fallacy is just you drawing the wrong conclusion. So like drawing a conclusion without sufficient evidence. While the second fallacy is when you mix up the cause and effect. So instead of the cause coming first and then the effect, you mistake the cause for the effect or the effect for the cause. Oh yeah, sorry, I kept on reading as casual, you're right. So which causal fallacy is at work in these examples? It's not which one, it's just like, is it the false cause fallacy or is it the post hoc fallacy? Yeah, so example 1, Jimmy isn't at school today, so he must be on a family trip. That's just you drawing a conclusion without really much evidence, which is literally the definition of the first one. And then example 2 is the post hoc fallacy, because it says every time a rooster crows, the sun comes up. Crows must be the creators of the universe. So obviously the sun comes up and then the rooster crows, so they're mixing up the cause and effects and the order of things, basically. Okay, sunk cost. Is when someone continues doing something because of the effort they already put in it, regardless of whether the additional costs outweigh the potential benefits. Sunk cost is an economic term for any past expenses that can no longer be recovered. So for example, imagine that you're watching the first 6 episodes of a TV show and you decide the show isn't for you. Those episodes are your sunk cost, because a sunk cost fallacy would be deciding to finish watching it anyway, because you've already invested roughly 6 hours of your life into it. So that's a pretty good example. So like if you already put a lot of your time, effort, or energy into something, instead of quitting, which probably would be better for you, you decide to keep going because of how much you've put into it. So which one is a sunk cost fallacy and which one is not? Yeah, so example 1, the person knows that the benefits or like the outcome will be better if they leave that person, but they still stay with that person because under their reasoning, they've been with him for 7 years, so they'd better stay with him. But example 2 is just saying that college isn't what they expected, but getting your degree is obviously like a pretty good consequence of their actions. So their reasoning isn't really how long they've been doing it. It's just them stating like observations, I guess. Appeal to authority is the misuse of an authority's opinions to support an argument. While authority's opinion can represent evidence or data, it becomes a fallacy if their expertise is overstated, illegitimate, or irrelevant to the topic. For example, Citing a foot doctor while trying to prove something related to psychiatry would be an appeal to authority fallacy. So this is you using the wrong expert in a field that they're not an expert in. So how do these statements mishandle authority? Appeal. How do these statements mishandle authorities? Well, both of them are appeal to authority. You're trying to say how do they? Okay, so I'll just say it. For example, one, because Martin Sheen played the president on television, he'd probably make a great president in real life. This is appeal to authority because, yeah, like Mehdi said, president on TV, just because he was an actor doesn't mean he would be a president in real life, and that's like overusing his authority for an era he's not an expert in. And then example 2, one day robots will enslave us all. It's true. My computer science teacher says so. So that's using your computer science teacher's authority over a field that they're not necessarily an expert in as an argument. Okay, equivocation. This happens when a word, phrase, or sentence is used deliberately to confuse, deceive, or mislead. In other words, saying one thing but meaning another thing. When poetic or comical, we call this a play on words. But when it's done in a political speech or an ethics debate or an economics report, and it's designed to make the audience think you're saying something you're not, that's when it becomes a fallacy. So it's just like a play on words. Like in our research unit, like I was saying, there was this example where you could say the bake sale raised over $1,000, but in reality it only raised like $1,005. So it's basically misleading words. So how does each of these examples commit equivocation fallacy? Oh, sorry, you can't see the screen. Oh. Okay, well, both of them commit an equivocation fallacy, but how do each of them? Yes, Dana.
So the first one I think is committing it by like, since it says that my political party is planning blah blah blah, it doesn't say that they aren't going to spend your tax dollars. They're just like saying that they will do something else.
Yeah, so in example 1, it's again a play on words. Like his political party wants to spend your precious tax dollars on big government, but mine is planning on strategic federal investment in critical programs. If you really think about it, these two things are kind of describing a similar or same thing, but one of them is just talking about the bad parts of that action, and one of them is talking about the good parts. So spending your tax dollars on big government is basically the same as investing your money on critical programs, which are part of the government, if that makes sense. And Philip, you can go, sorry.
Well, it's literally the same exact thing,
Yeah.
but well, so it's like a very big part of propaganda. So for
Mhm.
example, they say that, I mean, so for example, when we're comparing things, for example, like I don't know, like on Russian TV or like Fox or whatever, right? So for example, they can say that so wording is really important, like everywhere. So like this is basically just a matter of wording
Mhm.
because yeah, precious tax dollars on big
Yeah.
government. Yeah, so nobody likes wasting precious tax dollars and nobody likes big governments, but critical programs and strategic federal investments. It's a lot more appealing, I guess, than
Yeah, so it's just a play on words. And number 2, I don't understand while you're saying I broke a promise. I said I never speak to my ex-girlfriend again, and I didn't. I just sent her some pictures and text messages. So yeah, this is a just play on words because you technically, I guess, didn't speak to them, but you still like communicated with them in some way. So this person is committing an equivocation fallacy. All right, we're almost running out of time, which isn't good, but we'll finish the fallacies and then I'll end class. I promise I won't keep you that long. An appeal to pity relies on provoking your emotions to win an argument rather than factual evidence. Appealing to pity attempts to pull an audience's heartstrings, distract them, and support their point of view. Someone accused of a crime using a cane or walker to appear more feeble in front of a jury is an example of appeal to pity. The appearance of disability isn't an argument on the merits of the case, but it's intended to sway the jury's opinion anyway. So this is kind of using pathos, but in a more like extreme and unreasonable way. Again, it's just pulling on people's heartstrings and making them feel bad, which is pity. It's in the name. So which one is appeal to emotion and which one is not? Okay, yeah, so one is because this person is just basically making the professor make them feel bad because they're listing all the things that went wrong. But number 2, this student is actually like trying to do something about their grade and they're meeting with the professor to fix it instead of just making them feel bad. Yeah, I think this is the last one. The bandwagon fallacy assumes that something is true or right or good because others agree with it. In other words, the fallacy argues that if everyone thinks a certain way, then you should too. One problem with this kind of reasoning is that the broad acceptance of a claim or action doesn't mean that it's factually justified. People can be mistaken, confused, deceived, or even willfully irrational in their opinions, so using them to make an argument is flawed. So this is basically just assuming that just because most people do something that it's right. Kind of self-explanatory. So which one of these 2 examples is the bandwagon fallacy? Yeah, so like if someone jumps off a cliff, you should too. That's a good example. Yeah, so number 1 is not, number 2 is because number 1 is just saying that it's popular. That's an observation, while number 2 is saying that it's right. So like here it says assume something that is right or good because others agree. So we went over our time and we didn't finish everything I planned to, but that's okay. We'll push it to next class. That was all for today. Thank you for coming. You guys are free to leave.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, thank you. Thank you, bye.